Pardon the interruption, but I'm Mike Wilbon. The Harbaugh brothers face each other tonight, Tony. If I faced my brother Don, who would you root for?
I'm Tony Kornheiser. Give me a D. Give me an O. Give me an N.
Oh, okay,
Is that
we're starting off the week
question,
like that,
boy?
huh? We're starting off the week Monday with beef. Don's already,
I
Don
love
is
you,
here
brother
in
Don.
town, I think. It's like you're too early.
love him.
Get out of here.
I love him.
You're not getting
I love
voting
him.
rights. You're here too early. Too many days.
By the way, I've got a cough, so excuse the fact that I'm going to cough during the show.
Okay.
Welcome to PTI, boys and girls. In today's episode, the Chiefs win another squeaker. The Bears, Commanders, and Texans take tough losses, and a bunch of playoff contenders go down in college football. But we begin today with Saquon Barkley going 255 on the ground last night with 2 touchdowns. Barkley averaged just shy of 10 yards per carry as the Eagles beat the Rams convincingly 37-20. Barkley also had 4 catches for 47 yards, and the Eagles won their 7th game in a row. Wilbon, what does this performance mean for Barkley and the Eagles?
Well, Tony, I'm going to go straight to Barkley and dwell on that. I mean, this is a triumphant moment for Saquon Barkley, who the New York Giants said, we don't really need you. We don't really want you. Take a hike. We're going to keep Daniel Jones for about a minute and a half before we get rid of him and look really, really, really stupid. Huge moment for Saquon Barkley, now leading a team and putting up numbers not seen since 1977 when Walter Payton won the MVP. And it's just Saquon Barkley. And it's a triumphant time for running backs. Because just a couple of years ago, every coach in the league tried to get rid of the running back they had, no matter how great that player could be, no matter how dependable, no matter how durable, no matter how spectacular in the clutch. No, we don't want him. We'd rather have every dopey wideout with a cell phone than a great running back than Jim Brown. Oh, we don't want him because we got analytics. We look at a card that's going to tell us what to do. And it's an indictment to me, Tony. You know where I am on a lot of NFL coaching. Not all of it, but a lot of it. Running back, Saquon Barkley, you had to figure this out. I am so happy, and I'm rooting for teams like that. McCaffrey, a team, we don't want him. Derrick Henry, a team, we don't want him. They all look like fools not to use them.
Am I still on the show? Is it my turn?
You got time.
I'm not going to disagree with anything that you've said there about Saquon Barkley. In fact, I'm going to remind you, Mike, that 2 weeks ago I sat here and I said that Saquon Barkley would be a bona fide candidate for MVP.
He is.
Right there with Jared Goff, right there with Lamar Jackson.
Yep.
So I believe I had that. And I believe I had this too. If you watch the Get Up show, and I know you do,
Yep.
not everybody is attacking Nick Sirianni these days, are they? No. Nick Sirianni was destroying
I
the
have my
Eagles.
doubts,
And I
yeah.
sat here in this chair, and I basically said, get off this guy. He's like 47-19 since he got there. So I feel pretty good about that. Look, they collapsed last year. There's no doubt about that. They lost 6 out of their last 7, including a playoff game. They went from 10-1 to 11-7. But what were they missing? They were missing Saquon Barkley. So they went out in free agency and they got him. And I don't want to say it's as simple as that, but it seems it's as simple as that.
It does.
There was a period of time, I'll get off the soapbox in a second. There was a period of time earlier this season when Derrick Henry's name was floated as MVP. That's gone now. You were one of those guys gone now. Saquon Barkley has left him in the dust. He has more than 200 more yards rushing. Saquon Barkley has now, in 11 games as an Eagle, more rush yards than he had in any full season with the Giants. And yes, you were right. The Giants look terrible in this.
Yeah.
And it's hard to believe there won't be a whole shoveling through the Giants.
You think Coach Monken might be smart enough to give the ball to Derrick Henry tonight in a close game? You think he might? Because I don't know. Because the analytics might tell him something else. The 9-2 Eagles are just 1 game behind the Lions and the Chiefs for the best record in the NFL. The Lions rolled to their 10th win yesterday over the Colts, 24-6, a non-game. Detroit's defense hasn't allowed a touchdown in 10 quarters. And the Chiefs matched the Lions at 10-1, but it required a walk-off win, this one over the lowly Panthers. With the 9-2 Bills idle, Tony, in what order would you rank the top 4 teams right now?
It is impossible not to put Detroit first. This doesn't mean that I'm saying they're going to win the Super Bowl.
I understand.
I am saying right now, today,
Yep.
they are at the top of the pyramid.
They are.
As you mentioned, They haven't allowed a touchdown in 10 quarters to this point. They have the best plus-minus differential in the NFL. It's like 177, and the next best team, Buffalo, is 71 points behind. They have won 9 games in a row, and Mike, 3 of those games were at Green Bay, at Houston, and at Minnesota. These are playoff teams. I mean, they are, at the moment, better than everybody, and not to disparage the guy that they lost, Hutchinson, right? They lost him.
Aiden Hutchinson.
And he's a great, great player.
Could have been MVP.
But since he went out and everybody said, oh my God, they're going to go down the drain, they've allowed 15.3 points per game. And with him, they were allowing 18. Behind them, I have the Eagles, and right behind them, maybe Buffalo. And you're going to ask me about Kansas City. And I love Kansas City. Loved them. When you made fun of them, said they were Dynasty of One, I loved them. But they make me nervous now, Mike, because every single game is tight. They should have lost to Denver. They blocked a field goal. Carolina's a terrible team. They should have ended up in overtime with Carolina. But the best football player on the planet, Patrick Mahomes, made a great play at the end of that game. 8 of their 10 wins are by 1 score. So maybe they're great because they win all the games, but I think they're vulnerable right now.
Am I still on the show? Oh, I'm just wondering. Just want to see. I got plenty of time because I got my 4 teams here. And in order, and we're not going to disagree. We don't need that much more time. Detroit, Philly, I do have Buffalo 3rd, but I'm going to surprise you with who I have 4th. I don't have the Chiefs 4th.
I know who you got.
Pending tonight's action.
Chargers.
You
got the Chargers.
I got the Chargers 4th. I got the Chiefs 5th. We're not going to disagree. We're similar, as you know, from talking on your podcast this morning, straight down the line on this, and we agree on Mahomes, who could still be at the top or toward the top of the MVP voting. He wins games like yesterday, my God. But, Tony, the Lions look nuclear. I just hope they don't peak too early. You know, I want to see them look like this. I don't want to see them look like this Thanksgiving Day against my team. We'll get to them in a second. But they look
again. My fright with the Chiefs is, and I think they're great, and I respect them, and I applaud them. But if you let people that close every week, someone's going to beat you.
Yeah.
Someone's going to beat you. Let's move on. Let's go. This is a great story. Let's get to 3 agonizing losses yesterday. Your Bears made a great fourth quarter comeback, then lost in overtime to Minnesota. Washington missed a PAT that would have sent them into overtime with Dallas after a fourth quarter where there were 41 points scored. And Tennessee used a late safety to nail down a win over Houston after the Texans missed a 28-yard field goal, 28, that would have tied the game. So, Wilbon, who had the worst loss?
Tony, to me, they're all in the run. They're legit, right? And you know we were on the phone. I told you the Bears were going to lose. Listen.
You did 100 times.
I'm not crazed like I was with the Hail Mary and the block Packer. I'm not crazed because Caleb Williams in the passing game, it's coming. It's coming. It's getting there. And I like what I see there. And we're not going to make the playoffs, so I'm not crazed. The worst loss was Washington because you're playing a Dallas team. You are trying to win your division. You're trying to keep pace with the Eagles, at least stay one step behind them. You're playing a team so wounded, they don't have their best player. Dak Prescott out. You're playing a backup quarterback at home against your hated rival, and you can't beat them, and you get a reprieve. You score this late touchdown. That's the craziest game, I think, of the year, even crazier than the Hail Mary game we lost in that same building. But I'm going to go Washington, Tone, the worst loss. And I know C.J. Stroud had his Dan Orlovsky moment, but I'm gonna stick with the Commanders.
Well, I'm not. I'm going to flip on that. I'm going to say that the worst loss was Houston because they too were at home. They were playing an even worse team, a 2-8 team at that point, and they lost that game. They have now Houston, and you had Houston in the AFC Championship game, and you don't now. And you don't now. They have lost 4 out of 6. C.J. Stroud is going backwards at the moment. That's the worst loss. Right next to that is Washington. And again, they're at home, played a bad team. Dallas was 3-7 going into that, and they had looked to have collapsed because of all these home losses. Washington, Jaden Daniels has taken a step backwards. They have lost 3 in a row. Their playoff opportunities are dwindling at this point. Jaden Daniels made that great play. Terry McLaurin made the great play at the end of the game that should have tied it. But Jaden Daniels was 0 for 7 on third downs. So, I mean, and you're right. You and I talked throughout the Bears. All you said is we're going to lose, we're going to lose, we're going to lose. I would bring this one thing up, Mike. Since the Hail Mary, both those teams have gone down. Both those teams.
The Bears haven't won a game, and Washington won's one. So they must be like 1-7.
Lost 3 in a row.
Yeah.
Right.
That's right.
So that's the greatest play of the year, and it has wounded
nobody can
both
recover.
teams.
Right.
No, it's wounded both teams.
Caleb's recovered. He looks good.
But let's take a break. Coming up, Indiana and Army both suffered their first losses this weekend, but which team had the most disappointing one?
And if the Seahawks established themselves as the team to beat in the NFC West.
Yeah.
Maybe.
The Chiefs, maybe they'll win them all. Maybe again, but I don't know. It's so close every game.
Carolina.
And not against good teams.
Now, barely beating Carolina might be an indictment.
Pardon the Interruption is presented by Pardon the Interruption, presented by Bullet Frontier Whiskey, part of Happy Hour.
Trying to find out what's cracking with the Commoners. We reach in here and see what's first. Which team had the most disappointing loss in college football this weekend?
I'm going to surprise you with this. Because people expected them, a lot of people expected them to get blowed out, and they did. But it was still disappointing because they started up 7-0 in this game. I'm talking about Indiana and IU. And you can tend to just go, point the finger and say, yeah, enough of you people. But it's not you people, it's just one guy. Their coach is completely obnoxious and difficult to root for. And he's coach of the year, even with this loss. But Tony, it's Indiana. I know they went to Ohio State. It was there. I didn't necessarily expect them to win. You and I both thought, okay, Ohio State's going to win, but let's see what Indiana's made of.
Yeah.
In Indiana, they want to belong. Well, to belong, you got to stay in that game. You can't score first and then just get your lunch money taken. So I know there were some tough losses. There were a lot of them. You probably have another one. I'm a Big Ten guy. I was rooting hard for the Hoosiers. I'm going to say Indiana taking it on the chin like that in Columbus at the shoe. That was tough for me.
Again, you are a Big Ten guy, so I understand what you're saying. To me, there are only 2 possibilities for the most disappointing loss of the college football weekend. One is Alabama going to Oklahoma and scoring only 3 points. And the other one is Alabama going to Oklahoma and only scoring 3 points.
Man.
There are other schools had disappointing losses. Colorado, way up the list.
Yeah.
They got steamrolled by
They did.
Kansas. But Kansas has now beaten 3 ranked teams in a row. Ole Miss got beaten every which way by Florida. But like Kansas, Florida may be playing its best ball right now. I do not put Army and Indiana in that category because to me they lost to better teams. It is solely Alabama to me. Mike, that's 3 points. That's the lowest amount of points they've scored in 20 years. To me, that's a worse loss than to Vanderbilt. I think Kalen DeBoer's got to be on the hot seat. That's a terrible loss.
The committee's going to find a way to put Alabama in anyway. Now we'll be saying, if they have 4 losses, can an SEC team get in? And then bogosity we're going to hear tomorrow night from the committee. So that's how that's going to happen. But Tony, you watched some of the Indiana. When Indiana scored and went right down the field, didn't you think we got a game here? And then we didn't have a game. We didn't have a game.
Ohio State is a really good team.
They are. They might be the best.
They
might be the best team, and they were at home.
Yes.
But Indiana's got to stay in the ring. They got knocked out the ring.
Have the Seahawks convinced you that they're the best team in the NFC West?
No one in the NFC West has convinced anybody of anything. The 3 of them are tied, and the Niners are a game back. And no, we don't know. All precincts are not reporting. There's like 25% of the votes are in. No, we have no idea what's going to happen. We have no idea if the 49ers are going to get healthy enough and then wake up enough and be looking like the 49ers the rest of the way. We don't know that. I like what the Seahawks have done. I thought there was one play yesterday that unraveled the Cardinals. They could have won that game if they have a different play early and don't give up that pick 6. But no, we don't know. Nobody in that division has convinced me of anything. How about you?
We're going to have a slight disagreement. I am convinced right now that Seattle is the best in the division today because they're the only team that won yesterday. They beat the Cardinals. The Rams got beat badly by
Badly. Ooh,
Philadelphia.
they got starched.
The 49ers got beat badly by Green Bay. I believe that the
Seattle was at
Seahawks have only
home.
allowed, but I believe they've only allowed 42 points in the last 3 games. And Geno Smith continues to be
yes, he does.
a very
Steady.
fine quarterback
Steady.
at this stop.
Yes.
But here's where I will agree with you. Still, 1 game separates all of these teams. That's all, 1 game. So if you go on a 2-game winning streak, you can win the division, which is why, Mike, if you turn to me now and you said, will you take Seattle or the field? I'll take the field. I'll take the field. This is not Tiger Woods.
Right,
I'm
right,
going to
right.
take the field on this one, right?
All right,
'Cause
okay,
nobody else
one
looks
more
good.
question. We both have to answer, all right? No push, none of that. Who's going to win the division?
At this point, I'm rooting for the 49ers, and I've given up on them, and I think Seattle will actually win it. I do. But it's going to be one of those 9 and 8s. It's a 9 and 8, right? It's
I'm going to shock
what
you
does it
in
mean?
both West divisions. I think that the
ahead.
Chargers can emerge, and you know I never trust them.
Okay.
And the other team I
Right.
never trust is the Cardinals. And I think the Cardinals can win
Maybe.
the NFC West. I have lost my mind.
Maybe.
Lost my mind.
Maybe. Enough email. Let's take one last break. Still to come. The Harbaugh brothers get set to coach against each other tonight.
And the Celtics appear ready to get a big lift, 7 foot 3 inches worth, to their lineup. I'm crazy. I just said something nuts.
Sometimes people think that if a division is close, it means every team is good. I'm not sure
They could
any
all be
team is
just
good.
mediocre, just
Yeah.
Eh.
I don't think there's a good team in there.
Pardon the Interruption is presented by Bullet Frontier Whiskey. Please drink responsibly. Part of Happy Hour.
Happy time, people. Happy 84th birthday, Joe Gibbs. This is personal for us, as Mike and I covered the great Gibbs teams in Washington and his division rivalries with the likes of Bill Parcells and Buddy Ryan. Gibbs, with great assistance from Richie Pettibone, the defensive coordinator, and Joe Bugle, the offensive line coach, won 3 Super Bowls with 3 different quarterbacks, none of whom is in the Hall of Fame. You want to consider how unique that is and what it says about coaching? Then Gibbs went into auto racing, the sport he loved most, and won NASCAR races all over the place with the team he put together. Wilbon, didn't you see Gibbs at the NASCAR championship you went to in Arizona a week ago?
Tony, I regret. I looked for him. We were in the same areas, in the garage areas in Phoenix. I missed him. I hate that I missed him. 5 NASCAR championships and 214 win for Joe Gibbs. And by the way, the division coaches you mentioned, great. Bill Walsh, Don Shula, Chuck Noll. There's more great coaches. Don't tell me there's people out there like Joe Gibbs today, because there aren't.
Not so happy anniversary, Todd Sauerbrunn. On this day 17 years ago, the Broncos punter and kickoff specialist told the Denver Post, quote, "We're not going to play chicken bleep ball. We're not going to kick away from him," unquote. Him being Devin Hester of the Bears. Indeed, Sauerbrunn kicked right to him, and Hester obliged with an 88-yard punt return and a 75-yard kick return
Brings me
for
so
a
much
pair of
joy.
third-quarter touchdowns. Watch Sauerbrunn trying to tackle Hester. After the game, Denver's Dre Bly said, quote, "I feel like we single-handedly got beat by one guy," unquote. Just last week, Hester was honored at halftime in Soldier Field with a Hall of Fame ring ceremony. Wilbon, I know you love Hester.
I love Devin Hester. I love the fact that he made people look like fools, and Todd Sauerbrunn's one of them. By the way, as great as Devin Hester was, the greatest kick returner of all time, passing the great Gale Sayers, my childhood idol, he was only the second best 23 in Chicago. Just saying.
The other guy played a different sport.
Yeah.
Happy trails to the weekend games for both USCs. On Saturday, then third-ranked USC lost at home to number 6 Notre Dame. Notre Dame's backcourt of Hannah Hidalgo and Olivia Miles scored or assisted on 63 of the Irish's 74 points, while Juju Watkins and the Trojans scored only 61 total. On Sunday, top-ranked South Carolina went down to number 5 UCLA at Pauley Pavilion. That ended the Gamecocks' 43-game winning streak. And the new rankings that came out this afternoon reorder these 4 teams as follows. UCLA is number 1, Notre Dame 3, South Carolina 5, and USC number 6. Wilbon, you had both USCs winning. How surprised are you that they both lost by double digits?
Stunned, Tony. Although, come on, seeing a team in that uniform win in Pauley Pavilion, and that's not exactly a strange sight. There was something pretty cool about that. Congratulations to the Bruins.
Paulie Pavilion is very special
So great to sit in there.
all
Both been
college basketball.
Go if you can.
It really is.
Yep.
Let's go to the big finish.
Let's do it.
The Celtics list Kristaps Porzingis as probable to make his season debut tonight against Clippers. Is that a big deal?
Huge deal, Tony, over time. And it seems like it's, I don't know, 2 months too early, at least a month too early. Good for him for coming back. The Blues fired head coach Drew Bannister, hired former Bruins coach Jim Montgomery, fired about 6 minutes ago. Does that make sense?
Look, they like Bannister. He was an interim. They made him the real coach. But obviously Montgomery is valued by every team in the league except for Boston. Obviously. The Orlando Pride beat the Washington Spirit for the first NWSL championship. Your thoughts?
The great Marta, the Brazilian star who's now approaching 40 years old, wins. That's a big international deal for her to win. Novak Djokovic added Andy Murray to his coaching team. That makes sense?
You know, Djokovic has won 10 Aussies by himself, and in 4 of them he beat Murray in the final.
Wow.
So I don't know what Murray's going to help him with. Last one, Ravens at Chargers tonight. Which Harbaugh are you taking as if I don't know?
I'm taking Jim. I'm taking Jim Harbaugh and the Chargers to win this game tonight, Tom. His parents,
We're out of time.
Wedding anniversary. I think 53rd. How cool is that?
We'll try and do better the next time. I'm Tony Kornheiser.
And I'm Mike Wilbon. Same time tomorrow, knuckleheads. And now to get you set for Monday Night Football, here's Scott Van Pelt and the Countdown Crew.
Now we're supposed to linger. Weren't you going to shout out to Tirico?
Tirico, Mike, you tore your Achilles? Was it pickleball? Don't say it's so.
Oh, shout to our guy, Mike. Hope